lovelies, welcome to the channel. It's Chrissy here today, and it is my turn to show you my final project with the January kits. So this is something a little different. I have been working on this project for about the past 2 weeks. It's taking me that long to get the project finished and the video done, and it's been a pretty big work in progress. And that is because it is essentially 3 layouts in one. So I saw an idea on a YouTube video that I watched and I thought it was fantastic, and I thought I'd give it a go. Now this is going to be essentially the 3rd layout. What it is I decided to do a layout involving an acetate layer. So essentially 3 layouts that work together in the album to, well, in this case I've used 3 photos from the same day. Now I had them extra from my Project Life week something or other, and I didn't want to just do an insert and I thought, okay, I can do 3 separate layouts, but in the end what I decided was to do 3 separate layouts, but to do the 1st and 2nd layer or layout on a sheet of acetate. So therefore the front and back is layout 1 and 2, and then this becomes layout 3, but because of the acetate you can see the layout underneath, so it's like a 3-layer layout. So bear with me and you'll see what I mean. So this is going to be my base layer. This is what you're going to see through the acetate. So I decided to go with this gorgeous picture of my youngest nephew, and this is the background paper I wanted to use. Now bear in mind, when you use acetate as a layer or a layout, it's see-through, so everything you do on the front you're going to have to mimic on the back, and on this 3rd layer everything that I didn't want to be seen through the acetate I have to make sure was covered on the 1st and 2nd layer. Confused yet? This is why it took me so long, having to make sure that everything that I wanted to have covered was covered front and back. So yeah, you'll see what I mean. So I just did the packaging technique with those fabulous distress crayons that I love so much, and then another one of my favorite techniques is to scribble along the border and then just smudge it in with a very small amount of water on my finger, and it just gives it a nice smudgy little border. So it gives the background a border, saves me matting it on some cardstock, and I get to use those distressed crayons a little bit more. So I have kept this layout very simple because obviously with the acetate layouts on top of it, it's going to, whatever's on the acetate is also going to be seen on this layer, and vice versa. So I wanted to keep it simple and easy enough that I'd be able to cover it, but I've decided to do that distress crayon in the background because that's what you're going to see on all 3 layouts. So here I go with my acetate. Now because the acetate on its own would be a separate layout as well, I felt it needed something on as a whole on there instead of just the part that's going to cover the photo on the base layer. So I decided to use modeling paste. This is also another reason why it took so long, because obviously I didn't want to use my heat gun to dry the modeling paste on the acetate because I wasn't going to risk that. So I did have to leave it to dry overnight, and yeah, it did take a while. So I've decided to color that modeling paste, and I thought I'd use my blending tool, but obviously it wasn't clean. It still had a bit of black on it, and it tinted my blue and made it a bit darker, but it doesn't, like, it works with it. I don't feel it's ruined it or anything. It does work. So in the end I just add a bit more, and then I feel it's not dark enough, so I'm going to color directly onto that modeling paste with the crayons. I've used these crayons a lot in pretty much every project I've done this month because I just love them so much. I really have to get some more. So I've decided to go with this texture because I feel it goes with the water theme of these photos. These are pictures of my nephews in the pool, and especially with that blue distress crayon on the first layer that I did, it makes it look like ripples in the water, I think. So I think it goes all in all. So now this is what I mean. Now see how when I put the acetate on top of the bottom layer, this is what you can see. So I had to make sure that what I did on the acetate layer covered up what was behind on the paper layer, the one underneath. So this is where I go to work with some layers. Now Steph and Connie are probably going to love this part. I don't do layers, but obviously I had to in this case to cover up the photo, and it was my intention all along to do some cool layers because I want to give layering a bit of a try. If you've seen my videos, you know I'll matte a photo and that's about it. Sometimes I'll put a doily behind it, but that's pretty much the extent of my layering. I don't do layers. I want to try and do it more. So I thought, what better time to try it than this layout? So I go through my papers. That's another thing I have issue with, cutting up papers to make layers. That's probably why I don't do it so much, because I don't like cutting into papers. They're too pretty. But I decide to go for it because I always have paper left over and it just sits in my stash. So I figure, why not? We'll use it, you know? Bite the bullet, don't be scared. I'll cut it up and I'll use it. And I do. And I love that wood grain frame. I decided to use that. So building my layers, which is something I'm not very good at, but you know, it worked in the end. And making sure that it covers up the image behind it so that it looks like all that really is there is the background paper, the distress crayon, and the modeling paste. And I think I did a good job making sure it was all covered. The tricky part will be to make sure I do it again on the opposite side of the acetate and cover everything up from the front. So yes, it's a very interesting project that I set for myself this month. It was tricky, but it was a lot of fun. I went through many stages of hating the layout and then loving it and then loving the idea and not like where I was going with it, and in the end I got it done and I was happy with the way it was done. So, you know, not too bad for a month's work. So now that I have my layers sorted, I'm working on a title, and I decided to try and use the chipboard sticker sheet here, but in the end I decided against the XOXO because I remembered we have those awesome acrylic pieces in the kit as well, and obviously there's a perfect one that says summer, so I go with that. So I do have to try and pull this up, and I do rip my paper, so I go to the sticker sheet and get one of the borders and use that to cover it up, and I think it works alright. At this point I just want to try and get the layouts finished, and I'm trying not to stress too much about it being perfect. I really wanted to document these photos and I really wanted this idea to work. So now I'm working on a little cluster on the side over here, and I decide I go with these the collectibles. They're really cool. I still have heaps left, but I love the colors in this kit. It all went beautifully. Those phrases are gorgeous as well, but yeah, the colors of this kit were divine. I absolutely adored them. So you will notice that I keep laying the acetate layer on top of the bottom layout, just so I can line everything up and make sure I'm not missing anything, and make sure that it doesn't look weird and that it is covering the background photo. So I noticed that my two photos are a different orientation than the photo that I do on the back of this layout, which originally made it a little bit harder, but yeah, in the end it works out. So that's what I had to keep remembering when I was doing this layout, to remember that because it is acetate, you could see through on the back, obviously. So what was on the front, I had to be careful to mimic or cover it up on the back. But at the same time, I didn't want the layers to be too similar, or the layouts, sorry, to be too similar. So I didn't want to copy what was on the front to what was on the back, which is why I coloured the modelling paste with the blue on this side, because obviously on the back it's going to be plain white because it's acetate and you can see through it. So that's what I thought would make the layers just look a little bit different, even though it's, you know, see-through, so I have to make it the same size and shape and in the same position. So I did try to make it different but still make it work. So I've just used some of those tiny word alphas just to finish my title, and it's nice and simple, just summer fun. And then I put some enamel dots down and some of the sequins, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Then I'm going to go on to the back of this, which will be the second page in the album. So when these go in the album, obviously the acetate layout front and back will be in one page protector, so it becomes two layouts, and then the third one will be on the next page protector. I do show you a video at the end of this where they're in my album, so you can see what I meant when I decided to take on this challenge. So yeah, as you can see, I just keep lining it up to make sure everything works and is covered. And then yeah, I'm going to move on to the other side, to the second layout, which is the third that I'm doing. So right now I decided to add some more modelling paste. I start and think, oh look, see, there's light. I didn't realize the sun had gone down. I add some more modelling paste just to give it more of a matte behind all these paper layers, and you know, make it look a little like I was saying, a little bit different. So I'm adding it to this side, and you can't see as much from the other side, so because you have to remember it's see-through, so it affects the front and the back, which I had to keep reminding myself. But this is also why it took so long, because I did add some more, so then I had to wait another day for it to dry because I wasn't touching it with my heat gun. Yes, I did smudge my modeling paste, but surprisingly it was very easy to fix. This stencil made it very, very easy. I just got some cotton buds and just, you know, cleaned out in between some of the lines, and you can't even tell. I didn't really follow any pattern. I just sort of cleaned up the smushed part and off I went. Great stencil for mistakes like that. So yeah, I leave this to dry overnight, and then I come back to it and start the next layout. That's right, so while I was checking the front to see if you could notice the extra modelling paste I had added, I decided to add something in this top right hand corner, because I was reluctant at first, thinking obviously I have to mirror it on the back and it might, you know, throw the whole layout off and make it look weird, but I thought I can do that. I can mirror it on the other side and it's not going to be an issue, and it does add something else to that side of the layout. Sorry, so I went with it. So I just put I just cut up one of the Project Life cards that I had used the crayons on to give a watercolor look, and just use one of the stickers and one of the flowers, and as you can see through on the other side, but it doesn't wreck anything because I can mirror it on this side. Try again. I make a little cluster up the top that works with the part that you can see, so it's not a big deal. So I originally had the idea of using a big piece of this cardstock right in the middle of this layout here, and making sort of a layout inside a layout, and using this as my little tiny square to make a layout on. But it just kept getting smaller and smaller because you could see too much of it from the other side, so I ended up scrapping that idea, and I just use it as a photo mat. So yeah, I was trying to go for a bigger area of just the cardstock, but yeah, it was too big, could see too much of it from the other side because of that whole front and back thing. So I finally used this gorgeous, what would you call it? It's like it's begging to be watercolored or colored in or something like that. And that was my plan. I was going to use the distress crayons to color it, but I got carried away and glued everything down because I had an idea of where it was going, and I totally forgot to color it. So it's just black and white, but it doesn't matter. So I'm just putting this together. I like the offset of the frame, how it's not perfectly matted, same size board all the way around, and it gives me a place for my journaling, well, not my journaling, my title. And as you notice, you can see that there's also a bit from the other side of the layout that I haven't covered up, and I didn't want to go any bigger, so I thought I could use that as a layer on this side. Am I confusing anyone yet? Because it confuses me. This is why this layout took so long. But as you can see, what is on the other side you can see on this side, so I tried to make it part of the layout on this side. So that's my photo. I've matted my photo. I've used that awesome doily sticker from the sticker sheet, and then I've used one of the words to sort of cover up that seam where it joins a bit. And so with that extra piece from the other side of my layers that I've decided to include on this side, that's where I'm going to use to put my title. And I've used the white thickers, and I've just written "too cute." This is a picture of my husband, my nephew, and my nephew's dad having water fight in the pool. So I just went with "too cute," and then I'm just using some more of those word stickers to make a little cluster down the bottom here. The white I wasn't happy with, obviously, because you can't see it. So, and I know I've done it a few times, but it's just a great technique. I colour in the thickers with the distress crayons. So this I'm working on this cluster up the top now, and I used some sequins to make this cluster, so I just decided to mirror the sequins on the other side. So I've just got more sequins and just stuck them on top of the ones you can see, so they're front and back in the same positions. And yeah, I used glue as well as adhesive for this to stick down this photo, just because I didn't want I needed it to attach the modeling paste, so that's why I've done that. And this is what I meant by making this cluster up the top work as well. I was going to layer a whole new element and a whole new flag banner thingy, but I thought there was no need because it worked and it didn't look too bad. So I just used another sticker that says "perfect day" and used it as its own little cluster up the top there. So yeah, just colouring in those thickers now just to make them pop a bit. The white just didn't stand out, so colouring them in, and that's the best part of white thickers. And yes, now I'm just showing you the layouts all together. So layout 1, layout 2, and then layout 3. Now, taking photos wasn't the easiest thing to do because it's acetate, so I'm going to show you a video of these in my album. So now that the layouts are all finished, what I want to do is show you what it looks like in the album. Now, working with acetate, it's difficult to show you what I intended with the layouts just by photos because obviously it's acetate, it's see-through, it doesn't give the same effect. But essentially, the 3 layouts work together. Okay, I'll just show you. It's really hard to explain, but so this is obviously the acetate layout, but see, when you put it on top of the 3rd layout, it all works together. So page 1. Oops, sorry. And page 2 and 3, which I can't see. Here, we'll move this over. There we go. And page 2 and 3. So they're all separate layouts, obviously, but when in the album, when you first look at them, sorry, I'm bumping my frame because my album is too big. They all work together. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to do. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.